Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a valuation expert witness and divorce mediator in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the privilege to interview Randy Kessler today, who is a high-profile divorce attorney in Atlanta, Georgia, for over 30 years. He's a founding partner of KS Family Law, a 30-person family law firm in Atlanta. He represents entertainers and athletes. He's wrote Divorce, Protect Yourself, Your Kids, and Your Future. He is the former chair of the family law section of the American Bar Association. He is a professor at Emory Law School, and he is the founder of Starsona, which provides personal videos from stars to their fans. Randy, we are so lucky to have you here, and we're going to be talking about virtual court, divorce mediation, and valuation during COVID-19 pandemic. And I don't know if you're seeing this happen, but are more people moving towards divorce mediation or collaborative divorce, or does it matter?
Well, let me answer both those. Number one, with the joint expert, there's a philosophical problem, and we like using a joint expert. The problem is if the joint expert comes down and doesn't find a result favorable to your client, or your client doesn't like the result, then why didn't we have our own expert? So I have to worry about that as a lawyer. They have to realize ahead of time, like or not like the result, you will be stuck with this joint expert. And once they get that, they're okay with it. The trade-off is they save a lot of money, and the joint expert is usually somebody respectable that so sometimes we do a joint expert and we reserve the right to hire our own afterwards if we disagree, but just as a safety net.
But there will also be sometimes when I would say, if you're the out spouse, right, or you may not have total control, sometimes it's hard. The one spouse that has all the control of the money will just cut off all the money to that out spouse. So sometimes I say, as the out spouse, if the other party is going to hire an expert, well, go ahead and let them and see what it comes down, because normally you should exchange reports at the same time. But if that person doesn't have any money, say, okay, husband, okay, wife, go get the expert. We'll see where they come out, and then I'll hire somebody.
Right, because if it comes out favorable, you can say it was their expert that showed what I wanted. And if it's not favorable, you still have an avenue to attack it and impeach it. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
There's some judges in the country that are now appointing their own experts, saying this case has enough money, you are going to use marital money, and you're going to pay this expert that I just saw in a case last week that did a really good job, made my life easier as a judge. I want that expert to be the expert in your case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're getting appointed by the court quite more often now, because sometimes they're even fighting about who the expert is. And so if the court, if the court's like, well, I know that Melissa will do it fairly, or, at least reasonably, then we'll go with her. So it's been helpful.
Yep. And as for your question on mediation, so even before pre-pandemic, before COVID, judges love mediation, because if they have 100 cases on their docket and they send them all to mediation, and if 50 of them go away because of mediation, that just made the judge's life easier. So judges are inclined to almost always want to encourage mediation, or sometimes order it. And in many cases, you cannot even get a trial without saying the following words to the judge: Your Honor, we tried mediation and it failed. If you can't say you even tried it, then the judge is probably going to make you consider it. So mediation is definitely coming a long way. You also have to try mediation if for no other reason than to show the judge that you tried, that your client was willing to go to mediation. You don't know what's going to happen. There are lots of benefits to mediation aside from the possible settlement. There are benefits like you get some discovery, you learn things. If the other side wants you to accept $1 million as the full final settlement, and I say to the other side, why in the world would my client accept $1 million? Well, either they're not going to tell me and we'll go to trial, or if they think they can convince me, they're going to say, because we have this photograph of your client doing this, and we have this bank account we discovered, at least now I know, and I can tell my client, now maybe you should accept the $1 million, or I know what to defend. Or I say to the other lawyer, you're misinformed. I'm glad you showed me that. Let me explain to you what happened. That money was in that account for one day, and now that money is in this other account that we've provided to you. So the $1 million in this account is the same $1 million you have in that account if you look at the dates. So mediation helps you get through a lot of the stuff that sometimes you look and find at trial and you say, oh no, I made a mistake. That's not an extra $1 million. That's the same $1 million that was somewhere else. And when your experts can talk, and of course, that's what mediations usually are about for us, experts like you talking to the other expert, figuring out why we're so far apart, and then coming back and telling me and my client, Randy, I think that maybe we shot too high because their argument is pretty persuasive. even though I think it's arguable, but they probably have a better argument, or they have a worse argument, and stick to your guns. Those kind of things are valuable to me as a lawyer, to have an expert telling me they've talked to the other side, they've seen the glaring errors of the other side's ways, or they recognize something that they could have used a different variable that they're a little worried about. And that's
Well,
what the
and
great thing is.
I think that people don't understand always that there are times like you're in the middle of a litigation, you've hired an attorney, your spouse has hired an attorney. You can still kind of during this time go and get a mediator that would work with all of you to try to explain what could happen in court and give some clarity. Because sometimes you have, attorneys that aren't telling their clients, the downside if you go to court, right? Or their client is just unreasonable. And so
Yeah.
it takes kind of a third party to say, sorry, you're unreasonable. And sometimes that moves it. But mediation doesn't have to just involve one mediator. It could be co-mediation. It could be a group of people that kind of help you. But
Or it could be a
having
multi-day mediation. You could say one day is wife, next day is husband,
Mhm,
then we're going to do a joint session.
mhm,
Yeah, you're right. And look, I like to think that I'm a good lawyer and I know what I'm doing and I'm properly advising my clients. So when we go to mediation, my hope is the mediator will explore the other side's position and explain to them why they're wrong.
mhm,
But it could be me. It could be
mhm,
us. It could be something we have wrong too. You'd rather fix those problems before trial every time. You don't want
mhm.
to find out that you're wrong in trial. And you want the other side to find out they're wrong ahead of time and give them a chance to correct it, because if you can settle without litigating, even better. And most importantly, maybe to me as a litigator, is I feel much better going to trial when I know I've done what I can to settle the case. If I've given it my best and I've tried to explain to the other side why it's in their best interest to also settle, and they said no, and I feel confident in our position, I sleep better at night. I feel better about having a trial, because now I couldn't have done anything else.